In this short video, we'll take a look at creating live sessions, such as webinars and in-person sessions in Guroo Academy. In this course, Marketing Analytics, if you go to Calendar, you'll see the different sessions that we have planned. This is what the learner will see in their program. You can also choose to show sessions in the program onboarding. As you can see, we've got a couple of different types of sessions. This one here is a virtual session, and then we've got 2 face-to-face sessions. From the learner perspective, they can click this button here and download the session details to their calendar. They can also use the print button to generate a PDF of the sessions. By clicking on the session, they can find out some further information, including where the session will be held. They can access a map, and they can see which facilitators are taking the session, and they can also open the session in their learning plan. You'll notice here that the virtual session has a little flexible attendance tag. This is an option you can set up so that learners can have the choice to either attend the session live or to watch a recording later. Let's take a look at how to set up sessions. Head to Edit View, then to the page where your session is held. Here's an example of one that's already set up. To create a new session, click at the bottom, Add Section or Session. Then New Session. We've got a few different types of sessions. The first is virtual session. This is when all of your learners will be attending remotely using video conferencing software like Zoom or Teams. The next one is an in-person session, which, as the name suggests, all of your learners are attending in person. The third option is hybrid. This is where some of your learners are attending in person, whereas others are joining via a webinar link. And then finally, a group session. Group sessions will only display to particular groups you've set up within your program. For example, if your cohort is broken up into smaller groups and each group has their own separate session to work through a project. Let's select a virtual session. First, add in your title, then your session date, time, and duration. You can add in a description of your session. Now, remembering that we're doing a virtual session here, we do have the option to also add a video recording of the session. So you've got the option to include no video, or you can include a YouTube, Vimeo, or MP4 video. The learning commitment sets out whether the session is required, optional, elective, or recommended. Next, we've got our completion rule. You've got a few different options here. If you don't need to mark learner attendance at a webinar, you can choose to have the webinar show as autocomplete once the session time has elapsed and the learner has completed any required learning in that section. You can choose to mark attendance, which will show the section as complete once that attendance is marked and the learner has completed the required learning in that section. And finally, the one I mentioned earlier, flexible attendance. In this option, you can either mark their attendance or have them watch the video. In this option, the learner can choose to either attend a live session where their attendance would be marked, or watch the video back, which would also mark them as complete, as long as they've completed the required learning as well. Under session availability, I'm going to make this one available. You've got options for linear and open navigation. This might be handy if you've got pre-work that you want the learner to complete before they come to the session. And I want this to be available to all the learners in my program. Otherwise, I could make it available to specific learners using user attributes. Under the Session tab, we've got the details that we already created. We can add in some additional details, which will come up when the learner clicks on the webinar. We'll have to include our webinar link and password if you've got one. Please note, if you're using one of our webinar integrations, this link will be automatically populated. You can add your session facilitators. The drop-down will give you the option of anyone who's included as a facilitator in the course. If you have a facilitator who should be here, who's not showing here, just check that they're enrolled in the program and that their status is active. You can also optionally add in a session coordinator if there's someone who's running the session, maybe a moderator. Over on the Reminders tab, you can choose to include an upcoming session reminder. For example, I might want to include one 24 hours before the session. I'd like it to go to learners, and I can customize the email below. As you can see, my new session is available. From the facilitator point of view, to manage calendar sessions, head to the calendar. If your session is upcoming, you can click the button to join session. This will open the webinar. If your session has already taken place, you'll see that the join session button is replaced by the mark attendance button. To mark learner attendance, you can select which participants were in the session and mark as attended. If you need to check back which learners were there or were absent, you can do so via these tabs. And you can also export an attendance list. Creating a face-to-face session is much the same, except that in place of the webinar details, we have a physical location. You can choose this from your address book or enter a custom location. And that's how you create sessions in Academy.